Hello and welcome on into another Total War Warhammer 3 video, everyone. I'm Space Wizard Total War, and today we'll be showing off the changes to Tzeentch, Cathay, and the Ogres that Update 6.1 is bringing. We have Kislev in its own standalone video just because there is so much more here, so I expect this one to be quite a bit smaller. So starting off with Kairos Fate Weaver here for Tzeentch. He now has a rework to his Fragments of Sorcery, which allows you to build up your very own magical loadout for each and every battle to make use of the best spells for the possible scenario. So you start off with just 2 of your very common spells unlocked. This is just going to be the very first 2 spells you would normally have in most magic spell trees, but you have the opportunity to then switch it out for each of the different lores of magic. Each of the basic 9 lores and the lore of Tzeentch is what Kairos is going to have access to. So you have Harmonic Convergence, Searing Doom, Earthblood, and Shim's Burning Gaze on the left head, and Enfeebling Foe, Spirit Leech, Fireball, and Flock of Doom on the right. So they have all sorts of dangerous spells. You can switch them out for the scenario, which is great. For our second one, we have the Pink Fire of Tzeentch, Plague of Rust, Falls Protection, Wind Blast, Awakening of Wood, Melkoth's Mystifying, Wyson's Wild Form, Aspect of the Dread Knight, and the Cascading of Fire Cloak. Each 5 levels you go up will unlock more spells. You get your uncommon Tzeentch spell as default, and then you get the left and right hand spells as well. Like I said, each 5 levels after that will give you an additional spell slot and the spells that are in that slot. So you start off with the ones that aren't quite so face punchy, and then it gets quite a bit more aggressive very quickly. With the rare spells giving you Tzeentch's Firestorm, Healing, Transmutation of Lead, Murona's Time Warp, which is just incredible for Tzeentch, and then a whole heap more. Level 20 will give you your final spell slot, Fertile Gateway, and all of your very, very elite damage spells. Kairos has also received a bit of a skill tree rework to go with this. So Fate is Mine to Command is going to be the automatic unlocks that are giving you those Fragment of Sorcery spell slots. But he also has a bit of a rework here in the middle. We have Greater Arcane Conduit unlocked at rank 7. Gaze to the Past after that, which will drop those Winds of Magic costs for the Life, Heavens, Fire, Light Beasts, Death, Shadows, Metal, and High Magic spells. And then also at Tier 2, further drop that Winds of Magic cost and then give you all of the passives that would be associated. So the Life Bloom, Exorcism, Metal Shifting, and Roiling Skies will all trigger whenever you're casting any spells, making Kairos an absolute passive monster out of the field. Next up, we have Dwell in the Present, which will drop Winds of Magic cost for all of your Lord of Tzeentch spells, drop your miscast chance, and then give you the Prismatic Plurality Tzeentch ability, dropping cooldowns every time you do cast spells. Next up is the Gaze to the Future, which will be dropping Winds of Magic cost for Lords of Death, Beasts, Shadows, and Fire, and then at level 2, further dropping the Winds of Magic costs and giving you all of the passives as well. So you get Wild Heart for power recharge, Smoke and Mirrors for more speed, Kindle Flame to drop weakness to fire, add weakness to fire, and then a Life Leeching for more reserve. So Kairos is able to benefit from all of the passive spell trees, which is, frankly, it's insane. Can't wait to see what they give to Techless to kind of balance him out, because we've already seen Gelt get reworked. Now it's Kairos' turn, and Kairos' rework has been incredible, and now let's see what they're going to give to Techless. Lastly, here we have a Prescient Cast, which just gives you a base 20% more spell intensity, which is simply incredible. And because I didn't really play Kairos before his rework, if his normal kind of unique skills are not changed, feel free to skip this part. Otherwise, we'll go right on through these. Oracle of Eternity is going to give us more barrier during battles, 40% for Kairos, as well as the Oracle of Eternity, granting him a activated 44% more horde save for 22 seconds. The Oracle grants chances for Winds of Magic increasing its strength to be up by 10%, and it then drops his miscast chance by 40%. Thaumaturgic Rejuvenation is going to decrease how long it takes your barrier to replenish, delay before it starts replenishing, and then increase how fast your barrier replenishes as well for all of your units. Wind Summoner is going to give us extra Winds of Magic power reserve per turn, as well as more physical resistance. Iridescent Scriveners is going to give you higher success chance for all of your Iridescent Horrors faction-wide, higher recruit rank for Iridescent Horrors, 2 additional Tzeentch corruption in the local province, and then the ability for all of your embedded Iridescent Horrors faction-wide to cause terror. Next up, we have Boons of Change for boosting up your barrier by 20% for all Lords of Change in Kairos' army. I don't need to say why that's incredible. You also are going to have a Winds of Magic reduction for all of your Lord of Tzeentch spells, putting it at 30% total if you get Dwellin' Present and Boons of Change at the same time. Lastly, we have Bewitching Potency, which will then increase barrier by 20% further during battles, which will in fact stack with the barrier for the Lord of Change. They have 40% more barrier, and then you have Mastery of the Elemental Winds for all of your Iridescent Horrors, Cultists, and Lords of Change in this army. So each Lord of Change you have is not only going to have 40% more Winds of Magic, they'll also be boosting all spells cast by everyone in the battle, on your side at least, by I think 10% per Mastery of Elemental Winds that you have here. So if you have, say, 19 of them, and then Prescient Cast, Kairos is throwing around nukes, and it's fantastic. If they can even survive the flurry of Lords of Change that are descending upon them. Kairos is also lucky enough to begin his campaign with 2 free cults. He has one starting in Montfort, which you can do whatever you want with, and then one all the way up in the Crystal Spires as well. So you can use this to teleport Kairos up and away from his starting settlement to start up a new wherever you'd like, or begin a nice little cult network. Tzeentch's main provincial capital building line also has had itself a little bit of a rework, where now you have different recruitment options depending on which you have. So if you're using the Dimensional Tear, you'll get Blue Horrors of Tzeentch and the Chaos Furies of Tzeentch. And if you go for the Soul Keep, it will give you Marauders with Axe and Shield, and Marauders with Spears. Tzeentch's units have also had a little bit of a swap up on how early you receive certain units, like the Cultist here at the very first tier of the Cult of Deceits, as well as certain things like your Chaos Warriors with Halberds, and Chosen with Halberds, which used to be 1 tier higher. So give it a look through. Tzeentch has some units that you should be able to get much earlier, which should make your early game against Teclis and the forces of Kroq-Gar a little bit less strenuous. Lastly, for buildings, your income building line has received a little bit of a buff across the board, so they're giving you 50 more income per tier, and then also giving you an additional buff as long as Winds of Magic is tempestuous. There already was one when it was strong, so now you just have an additional option if you are balancing your Winds of Magic quite nicely. Lastly, for Tzeentch, we have had a rework of the Heralds of Tzeentch and the Exalted Lords of Change. We will just show off the Heralds where they have their own kind of unique line now. Where before, I believe they just kind of had the option to give you the Locus of Change, Conjuration, Mortification. Now you have the Potentialite, so you'll gain more experience at rank 8. And then you can choose between giving it the Locus of Change for more missile damage, Locus of Conjuration for more Winds of Magic, and then lastly, Locus of Transmortification for some extra friends. After that, you will unlock the Greater Loci, giving you more uses for your Tzeentch Locus abilities, so whatever that number is, just add an additional. So 3 summons of Blue Horrors, and then the other 2 are just going to last 100% longer. So this one's at a 20% duration, it'll just double to a 40% duration. Locus of Change, 22 seconds up to 44, so it'll double the effect duration, or just give you an additional use of the Blue Horror summon. You also then can specialize into Dream Big, which will allow them to gain even more experience. This is going to be a specialization unlocked at rank 12. Gain more experience, but stay wounded for much longer. Have more leadership, but drop the leadership for their entire army. So this is if you really, really want to take one of your Heralds of Tzeentch up to a Lord of Change as quickly as you can, and you don't care about them really bringing an army around with them. So maybe your first Herald that you want to drag around with Kairos as an additional spell caster. Secondly, we have Raucous Kin, which will allow you to buff up Blue Horrors, Pink Horrors, and Exalted Pink Horrors quite a bit, with 25% more speed and 15% more missile strength. And lastly, we have a favorite trick, Keep It Simple Stupid, which will drop the Winds of Magic cost for all of your common, Lore of Metal, and Lore of Tzeentch spells. Common are just going to be your normal gray tier spells, so it's things like Blue Fire and Pink Fire, or if we're talking Lore of Metal, Searing Doom, or Plague of Rust. Lastly, for your Heralds, they will now have their own unique line, where you start with Hard to Hit for 5 additional defense, and get to something a little bit more juicy with more barrier hit points. Spellfire will give you more missile strength. Farcast will give you more range for their missile attack. Simplicity will give you more ammunition and then drop their reload time. And lastly, they will gain the Warp Flame Blast bolts, which will give you more armor penetration and give Warp Flame, which will reduce enemy armor. So they will not only pierce more armor, they will weaken enemy armor as well. The Exalted Lords of Change themselves, I'll go ahead and leave those unspoiled so you can discover them in your own campaign. Just get a Herald up to rank 15 as quickly as you can, and you can see the new tree for them. Moving right along to some of the changes brought to Cathay. We have, starting here with Miao Ying, the Nangao Grenadiers, a new DLC unit that is going to be very similar to the Vampire Coast Bombers. These are going to be a smaller count unit of explosive chucking ladies. They'll have fiery grenades with 19 of them, so I guess they have, I think, 18 to start. Miao Ying, of course, has buffed these guys up a little bit, with some pretty decent missile strength. Not very much in terms of armor piercing, so they'll be good at blending away cheap and useless chaff. They also have a single-use Heaven's Flash bomb that will have a 15-meter explosion radius, and it will be dropping people's melee defense and melee attack, anything that is hit by it, by 24 for 2 seconds. So it's a nice little, in case of emergency, or just hit an enemy as your cavalry is charging, or theirs is, to either nullify their cavalry charge or to boost your own. To go with the changes here to the, or at least the bringing in of some new grenadiers from Nangao, Yao Ying has also had herself a little bit of a skill tree rework, where her Supreme Matriarch trait is going to still be giving you a upkeep reduction for missile infantry units, but now you'll also get more recruit rank for Iron Hail guns, Crane guns, and Nangao Grenadiers, and also boost their missile strength by an additional 10%. So she's going to be all about still using missile infantry, but also sprinkling in as many of those Nangao gunpowder units as you can. But where can you recruit these new bombers, I hear you ask? At the very first tier at Nangao Forge, right alongside your Iron Hail guns. They are going to cost you on very hard 125 upkeep. But to recruit them, I don't think I have anyone nearby because I am... Oh, 1 second, let's just recruit someone in.
The Lord Magistrate stands ready.
Recruiting them is going to cost you 525. Looks like it's being increased by something, but it's going to be about a 525 cost to grab you some Nangao Grenadiers on very hard. Last new additions to Cathay are going to be over here in the kind of southern part of the Hanyu port. We've got a new ogre camp. It's Booger Stank and the Whiff of Cheese. This is the Stone Shatter tribe, and will be now supplementing Zhao Ming's forces, at least very early on. We'll see how long you want to keep these guys here, but they will allow Zhao Ming to recruit in some ogre bulls and lads with dual weapons right off the bat, and benefit from the skills that Zhao Ming does in buffing up ogres. So Zhao Ming now has access to even more ogres if the cross clubs just get immediately obliterated. And lastly, for our faction changes, we have the Ogre Kingdoms getting themselves a brand new unit, and that being the Noblar Flingers. So you will be able to recruit them from your Tier 2 Trapper Huts, and they are going to cost you 75 upkeep, which is a good bit less than your Noblar Trappers. You get 120 of them. The best analog to these guys are going to be the Skaven Slave Slings, but they actually do perform quite a bit better than Skaven Slave Slings, simply because there are less of them. There are 20 less total, and they deal, I think, just 1 more missile strength than your Skaven Slave Sling. So in a one-on-one fight with a lot of other very expendable missiles, these Noblar Flingers will do a very good job. They're also decent at chucking their rocks into the flanks of halberdiers, spears, or other units that ogres tend to not like to charge into. They have very, very low missile damage, though, so let's actually pull these guys up. Very, very low armor piercing, and very, obviously, low missile damage itself means that they are going to be doing almost nothing when it comes to medium and highly armored units, so you'll want to get them out as quickly as you can. But in the early game, they're very, very good at just kind of picking away at enemy missiles and their spear units. And that is going to be all for today. A little bit of a shorter video. Let me know what you thought in the comments of the changes brought with Update 6.1 to all of the factions, including Kislev. Has this been a net positive update overall, or are you a little bit more negative on it? Thank you all so much for stopping on by today's video. If you enjoyed, please remember to leave a like for the like god and a sub for the sub throne, and I'll see you all in the next one.